I kept on thinking about, maybe I have an opportunity to create Alibaba or Amazon for India.
Wow.
And that thought always haunt me. And I kept on investing more and more time and effort, started moonlighting. And eventually I reached to a stage where I said, regret of not doing ShopClues will be bigger than anything I gave up. And I gave up my life in US. I gave up a $1 million job and beautiful house in Mission Hills in Bay Area, and moved to India.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley, in partnership with Leumi Tech, sponsored by Hippo Insurance, Upwest Labs, Turing, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, and in media partnership with CTech. My next guest is the only entrepreneur to have created 2 unicorns in India, and he's amazing. Meet Sandeep Aggarwal, founder of Droom and ShopClues. Sandeep is the only Indian technology founder who's created 2 unicorns back-to-back. Droom, India's first online automobile marketplace, and ShopClues, India's first ever managed online marketplace. Before his journey into entrepreneurship, he was a former top Wall Street tech analyst in the US who worked with Microsoft and Charles Schwab. During that time, he was often sought as an expert source on TV networks like CNBC. Inside trading charges, later dropped, derailed his life, but he fought through the adversity and never stopped fighting for what he believes. Sandeep Aggarwal, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders from New Delhi. I am so honored to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
It's such a pleasure having you today. Sandeep, the only Indian technology founder who's created 2 unicorns. Is that true?
That's right. That's right, Michael. I was in Silicon Valley for most of my adult life. Came to India 9 years back for my first venture, and then started the second one 6 years back, and both became unicorn eventually.
Unbelievable, simply unbelievable. Droom, ShopClues, in India's first managed online marketplace and India's first automobile marketplace. I said them in reverse order, but your journey into entrepreneurship is fascinating. I'm trying to even figure out what I want to ask you most in these short 20 minutes, and I'm going to decide to opt in to understand better the Indian ecosystem. What is it like being an entrepreneur in India, building 2 unicorns, marketplaces in a place that has billion people? I'm so excited. Sandeep, take me through your entrepreneurial adventure. I want to be there.
Sure, absolutely. So Michael, while a lot has changed in last 9 years since I have been in India, and building Droom, which is my second company for last 6 years plus. But let me just share with you, when I came to India in 2011, before that I was in Silicon Valley. And to me, that time, India exactly looked like how Silicon Valley would have been, let's say, when in 1955, 1960, when Hewlett-Packard and Xerox were coming up, and maybe when Kleiner Perkins was getting formed. So, when I came to this country, there were, 35, 40 million mobile phone users. There were 80 million internet users. There were probably half dozen venture capitalists. There were maybe 24 angel investors. And there were probably 6 or 8 companies in the internet side. And, the entire market value of all those companies, public and private, probably would be around 2 billion. Now we are talking about 800 million on internet.
Wow.
Most of them have smartphone. Probably there are 200 venture capitalists who invest in India. There are probably 100 private equity funds who invest in India. The public and private value of the entire Indian internet sector, or I would say VC funded companies, would be more like 200 billion, right? And probably a dozen companies have gone IPO. India is home to close to 40 unicorn now. So a lot has changed and evolved. Right. I mean, and I always used to wonder, will it ever evolve? But especially last 3-4 years, it has evolved in a very rapid manner.
So you're responsible for 5% of India's unicorns, basically. And just by...
That's right. I mean, when ShopClues, when I created ShopClues, it was a 5th unicorn in India. And that time it was more of a novelty. And it was the fastest to reach $1 billion in about 4 years. And today, I think, if I'm not wrong, the fastest is probably 2 years, right, or less than 2 years. But I'm still very proud of creating two unicorn back to back, and absolutely long way to go with Droom. Unless we make series of stupid mistakes or get unlucky, I think it could be a 30-50 billion dollar asset in next 5-6 years.
I'm having so much fun already, and it is such an honor. Sandeep, what is it like being, creating the fifth unicorn in India? Tell me a little bit about the Indian ecosystem. You decide to go to automobile marketplace. What is it?
Michael, when I moved for my first venture, I had sourced 1.4 million from my around 10 friends of mine, many of them who studied with me, and I worked on Wall Street. So some of them were my client / friends.
So happy right now.
I raised around 1.4. So I raised 1.4 million from them, and I was about to move to India. Like, I was an Indian American, and like me, there were 3 other team members who grew up in India but spent majority of their life in US. I convinced them to come with me. So we all packed our houses, sold our cars, started taking admission for our kids in India. And I met one of the very famous VC, I will not name, based out of Sand Hill Road. And he tells me that, why are you raising 1.4 million? You are a famous Wall Street analyst. You are doing this wonderful job. Why don't you raise 5 million and we'll give you that money? I said, sure. And I made a mistake of not taking that money from my friends and just focused on my venture capital money. And then, a month later, they gave me a term sheet and they said, congratulations, this term sheet equivalent of getting a admission letter from Harvard University, you have arrived. And we had our own plan independent of capital. But, we were very excited that a top venture capitalist gave us so much money. We sold everything. We were ready to move back to India. 3 days before I was going to move back to India, that VC called me and he said, we are not going to pursue further. And so I had already, sold my every item. I stayed in a local hotel for next 2 weeks, went back to all of my friends who had given me commitment for 1.4 million. And I ended up raising 2 million. And first time with one-way ticket in 15 years, I came to India, right? And trust me, while I grew up in India, I did not spend 15 years here. And I used to come every year like a tourist. But this time when I came with a one-way ticket, India just sounded so different. India smelled different. People looked different. And I was very nervous that I'm here for a long haul.
Wow.
And for first 6 months, I would not open half of my boxes from US, thinking if the company does not do well, I'll go back.
Wow.
And then, we got lucky. We were the 35th entrant into Indian e-commerce. Within 6 months, we became the 4th largest. And as I mentioned, 4th year, $1 billion company. And then ended up raising, $350 million from the, marquee top investors. So, but again, it was a quite rough journey in the beginning. So many VCs said no. Lot of VCs who were based out of India, they were not convinced that I will give up my great life in Silicon Valley and $1 million plus annual job on Wall Street to move to India.
Wow. I'm taking a pause because just wow, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. Leaving Wall Street, million a year to go to India, to a place that what it sounds like, you didn't really know what to expect, and it sounds like you weren't really looking forward to coming back to the same place that you had remembered, and coming with that resilience. Now, walk me through those first 6 months where you mentioned you're climbing from being the 35th entrant to the e-commerce world to becoming the 4th largest. That's really, really fast.
Yeah. So Michael, basically what happened, I was a Wall Street analyst in Silicon Valley, and there was an Indian company called Make My Trip, very similar to Booking.com or Expedia, which got listed on NASDAQ. When they got listed NASDAQ, that time e-commerce was 17-year-old industry. And for all practical purpose, it was new. So, but, I had no plan to come back to India, but I was very fascinated by Make My Trip going public. So I decided to launch a research coverage on Make My Trip, came to India. And I noticed that while e-commerce was 17-year-old industry, it was ready for prime time after 17 years in India.
Wow.
So this was like United States in 1994. That's how I thought. And so I thought, why the hell I'm just writing research report when when I have an opportunity to create an underlying asset. So I basically, it did not matter how much I ignored, but I kept on thinking about, maybe I have an opportunity to create Alibaba or Amazon for India.
Wow.
And that thought always haunt me. And I kept on investing more and more time and effort, started moonlighting. And eventually I reached to a stage where I said, regret of not doing ShopClues will be bigger than anything I gave up. And I gave up my life in US. I gave up a $1 million job and beautiful house in Mission Hills in Bay Area, and moved to India.
Wow. And so 2 unicorns, not one. I mean, obviously, there's always luck involved. I don't believe luck is a big factor here. It cannot be 2 unicorns back to back. What did you understand? What is it that you understand? So there's one thing that about India being ready to accept its own Alibaba and its own Amazon, right? I mean, that there is this opportunity there. What is your deep understanding, though, about the Indian culture of working, right? There's the famous story of eBay versus Alibaba in the early days.
That's
what
right.
did you understand about the Indian e-commerce system
Yeah.
that made you win?
So, absolutely. So, Michael, I'm so glad you mentioned about eBay versus Alibaba. So, my thesis when I was starting ShopClues, my thesis was that India for e-commerce is where US was in 1994, and maybe where China was in 2004, when each net, which became eBay in China, Alibaba, and Zoya, which became Amazon. All three companies started around the same time in China, and eventually Alibaba made a very big way. So what I was doing, I was as an analyst covering Amazon and eBay both out of Silicon Valley. So for me, ShopClues was a culmination of best of both worlds. On one hand, India has a very high cost of capital and real estate is very expensive and tails are really long. So I wanted to pick up a business which is built on a marketplace principle. But on the other hand, small mom and pop sellers, they are not as sophisticated as a typical retailer in the United States. So I wanted to also give services very similar to how Amazon give fulfillment by Amazon for its third party business. So that is how, so I combined best of eBay, best of Amazon to create ShopClues. And within 6 months, we got 500,000 sellers who never had heard word called e-commerce or what does it take to sell online. And we would literally go one by one to everyone, sometime, sit at their small shop with our laptop and create listing and train them. We created something called ShopClues University, which had hundreds of hours of training programs to train them how, what does it take to sell online. So we had to do a lot of stone breaking work, really fundamental, very most basic things, which you'll take for granted in US every day. We had to actually literally educate people for that also. And that's how we started. Anything. When I came to India, I understood one thing, that Murphy law will be applied on me and a startup, to raise to the power of 10. So anything which could go wrong would go wrong. Anyone who can backstab us will backstab. Anyone who can play any games will play any games. So I assumed all of those so that I'm better prepared and never get surprises. But we had an innovative model. We were way ahead. We were 5-6 years ahead of our time. And eventually every large company became marketplace, but we were the first one to start. And that turned out to be quite rewarding.
What is it like for you? How do you, looking back, what is it like today being Sandeep Aggarwal, knowing that you are, one of the founding fathers of India's tech ecosystem, really?
Yeah. So I feel very blessed. Michael, about that. Clearly, when I came to the country, if we may not realize, but United States, for a young entrepreneur, United States create a lot of local heroes. So while growing up, you can take inspiration from Mark Zuckerberg to Steve Jobs to Bill Gates to Larry Page to Sergey Brin to Elon Musk. I can name thousands of them. And United States has been producing local heroes at least for 70, 80 years. That was not the case in India. Here, the local heroes are more of a Bollywood actors and cricketers and politicians, or a businessman which were born with a silver spoon in their mouth.
Right.
So So, coming here and honestly becoming one of the local heroes who is inspiring now others, it absolutely feels that, I can't I can't stop counting my blessings. And definitely, people sometimes call me father of marketplaces, sometimes call internet visionary, and it's good. I think probably in the beginning, it felt like, patting my own back and all, but then I accepted that, whatever market timing and my own karma result into two very scalable and good companies, and I'm very proud of that. So that's where I am. I also, for whatever it is worth, late last year I wrote a book called Fall Again, Rise Again. It's on my life journey, and the purpose of that was really sharing my ordinary life and my simple middle class upbringing, and inspiring others that if I can do it, so can you. And so I did that. It was a best-selling book. I did participate in a program which is very similar to Shark Tank, which was ran by MTV for one season, where I came as a judge, and everyday startup companies will come live on a TV and pitch. So I participated in that. So I keep on making my contribution to inspire others. I can't mentor and guide everyone, but wherever I can make a difference, I try to give back that way.
Wow, I have too many things that I want to ask, and we only have 5 minutes left. I'm already upset. Humble beginnings, learning new industries. I'm gonna focus on two questions. Now I know them. Starting with the humble beginnings, millions, billions around the world are entering into a connected world. This is just incredible. And, the opportunities that people now have, whether it be education or whether it be facilities or network, are just, we're still yet to really understand them. Extracting from your personal experiences, what are the possibilities now, and what can people that don't necessarily, grow up in the most high tech or most innovative environment, what can they do?
See, Michael, since I would say right now we are living in the era where the entry barriers for becoming an entrepreneur and pursuing your entrepreneurial dream are so much more compelling and real, with low entry barrier. From industrial revolution in 1750 until now, I would say in the last 25 years, there has been a complete democratization of entrepreneurship happening. And it is geography agnostic, it is background agnostic, it is education agnostic, and to large extent, it is capital agnostic, right? So long as you carry lot of passion, lot of energy, and a mindset or maybe personality of not taking no for an answer, I think you will make it, right? So I think the like one of the thing I always share people that there was a gold rush in California in 1850, but there was one thing common among everyone who found the gold: they were in California, right? So in my view, independent of your background, if you really want to pursue this dream, you got to jump in the bandwagon, right? I mean, in the last 250 years of modern history of wealth creation, social transformation, and entrepreneurship, this kind of era has not come, where the entry barriers have come down. A lot of people can guide you, capital is easily available, and the whole, every category is up for disruption and innovation.
Amazing. And Sandeep, you've done something that, I can only wish for myself in my wildest dreams to be able to do, to enter a new market that doesn't exist yet. Not do an evolution of it, but do a revolution for it, and be a founding father of this new concept of something that is now impacting millions of people. And when you tell me that you had those 500,000 people that previously just didn't have existence online, and all of a sudden you're allowing them to change and transform their whole business, that's incredible. What did you learn that the typical entrepreneur or even the typical unicorn entrepreneur wouldn't have because they didn't go through the same experience? What is that? What did you learn from creating a new place?
See, I think, Michael, I feel first of all, I came as a student during first .com boom to United States, and I was regretting to be paying for expensive education and studying while everyone was creating a next hot startup in Silicon Valley, right? And then when I graduated, 9/11 happened, .com boom, .com bust happened, and I was just babysitting my job with the fear that I'll get fired any day. So I have seen some of these things. But one thing I realized early on is that if you do what you are passionate about, then it's no longer a work. That's the single biggest thing. I know it sounds cliche at time, but this has really helped me. My each subsequent job, I realized I was becoming closer and closer to what I was truly, in a very uninhibited way, was passionate about. And when I became Wall Street analyst. Out of the three jobs I did, I was very passionate about it. When I became entrepreneur, I realized that I would do this even if I have to take money, even if I have to pay money for it, rather than making lots of money. So my point is, I think biggest thing is passion. Second is, when you reach to a stage where you say that the regret of not pursuing my vision or my dream will be bigger than anything I give up, right? And then you are committed, and you assume that nothing is going to be straight line. Anything which can go wrong will go wrong, right? You also need to have an emotional composure that you can experience a new high and sometime new low, and sometime new high and new low in a matter of 2 hours, right? I have seen a days where I have celebrated the biggest achievement, and 3 hour later, I'm finding a place to hide so that I can cry, right? So you need to have all that mindset, and then of course there are a lot of things. Everyone has a different style. I'm a little bit more data oriented, so I believe in if you cannot measure, you cannot control. So my personal style is that does not matter what I do, I just measure everything. So I think it's a combination of all this passion, energy, undying desire, and just being very realistic. And nothing gets created overnight. So one need to take a little bit long term approach.
Sandeep, it's hard for me to express how inspiring this is. I'm considering taking the first flight to New Delhi and coming to ask to be your right hand man and just follow you and learn from your movements. It's amazing. But 20 minutes go by very fast. And I have a few questions that are more fun. They're not about what we talked about. They're a little bit about you. And I want you to take me back to middle school or high school. And what fascinated you as a kid? What was a subject that really caught your attention in school or outside of school?
Yeah. So Michael, during my school days, I was good in mathematics probably from day one. I did not like actually science, especially physics, chemistry, and biology. Somehow I just did not understand. I just adored history. I loved history. And as I grew up, I became like I read a lot of world history. So, but mathematics and world history are something I absolutely loved. But one thing I would say is that until the age of 21, I was actually almost like a full-time sports person. I played two sports in school and high school while growing up. So I was academically, I would call at best maybe average. My mother will call me below average, but that's what I was academically, and spent most of my time playing. But I was always a builder and creator type of person.
What sports were they?
I played cricket, which is like of course, like $1 billion people are passionate about it. And I play badminton, and I played both at a state, at under 18 at a state level as a pro.
Amazing. And who would be an inspiration of yours, or some role model throughout your career that you got inspired by, real or fake?
Yeah, absolutely. So. I think from Michael, like one thing I always realized that, whenever I read any biography and autobiography, I was particularly more charged up that day. So, but I had also opportunity to work with Bill Gates because I worked in Microsoft in the corporate headquarters in Redmond, Washington. So Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, these would be the, four names where I think who have really made very profound impact. Just, I would even look in the mirror and try to mimic them, emulate them, and see how would they handle different situations. And without realizing that was also helping me to become an entrepreneur in my own means.
You worked with Bill Gates?
That's right.
I feel like I missed the whole episode. I'm just shocked. Give me one experience with Bill Gates that left an impression on you. I'm sorry that I'm running over, but I just have to know.
No, that's okay, Michael. No, so look, when I worked at Microsoft, there were like 74,000 full-time employees, probably 100,000 contractors. So it is not common to work with him. And the day when I started, my boss came and he said, Bill Gates or Steve Ballmer, who was the CEO at that time, would call you for some work. And so I happened to be in many meetings where Bill Gates would be there. And one of the things I noticed about him is that, even thousands of people are present, and whatever they are presenting, he will process the information very fast, and he would be very logical. And he kept very high standard for himself and demanded nothing but the best, right? So these were the and the thing which helped me is I often would hear him, not during the meetings, but in general also, like three things which he mentioned. One is always go for a large addressable opportunity, make sure technology is the center of everything, and make sure you have a high gross margin category. And if you have these three things, you'll create a world-class company. And that later on in my as entrepreneur career, I followed those three screens always.
Wow. Just wow. The last question, and I'm so sad to say this is the last question. 3 words that you would use to describe yourself.
I would say, Michael, I would say, passionate, right? I would say maybe extremely data driven, maybe almost like a nerd and geek when it comes to data, consumption of data and seeking the data. And then what I would say maybe out of the box thinker.
Amazing. Sandeep, thank you so much. This was just wonderful.
Absolutely, Michael. Thank you for having me, and I equally enjoyed the conversation.
I'm leaving with so much more energy than I began with, and that's amazing. And that's why I do this show. I'm for these episodes. Thank you so much, and I really look forward to staying in touch and continuing to get many more advice and experience from you. So thank you, and stay safe and stay healthy.
Sure.
Thank you.